I mean, they're pushing water through to give me some water right out there. But, yeah, but it's, it's, it's all about the allocation of the system.
Right.
They over allocated it back when they created it. But in 2026, they're gonna do that.
Okay, let's try this again. Welcome everybody to today's Ember meeting. At this time, we'll start with public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to a subject that is not on today's agenda? Not seeing anyone rise. We'll go now to member recusals.
Yeah, I step down for 3, 4, 5.
God,
I'm sorry, I'm supposed to use the microphone. I have to step down for 3, 4, and 5.
Alright. We'll now move on to the agenda status report.
Good morning, there's no changes to the agenda.
Great, thank you. And we'll move on to the approval of the meeting minutes for July 28th. They were shipped out in your packet. Have you had a chance to review those? And if so, would you like to make any amendments and or changes to those minutes?
No, and no changes.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. With that said, we'll move, I'll need a motion to approve those meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Thank you very much. All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes as written, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Those minutes are approved. Moving on to the NBAR members informational briefing. Is anybody in any contact with applicants, supervisors, staff? All right. With that,
just one thing. The objective design standards review meeting was on the 22nd. There's gonna be another one on the 6th.
okay.
I'll tell you what happens. It's exciting.
Nothing exciting happened in the last one.
No.
Okay. All right, with that said, we'll move on to staff update.
Sounds like the audience can't hear. A little bit louder. Would be great.
Okay, hold on. How's that? Perfect. All right, so if you guys want to use your mics, that'd be great. Let's move on to staff update.
I don't have anything for you this week.
Great, thank you. All right, with that said, we'll move on to standard items on the agenda. Number one, BR number 230106. 520 Bell Street. If the applicant is available, please introduce yourself for the record and we will begin. Good morning.
I'm Greg Roth, the project architect. At 520 Bell Street, it's been about 5 years since I sat in this room, or stood in this room. Just go ahead and do write in a presentation, I guess. Okay. So this project has a bit of a history. Has approval and building permits with a prior design. Was a 2-story building. Recently, we've been making some design changes and the owner has requested a redesign, so we have changed it from a 2-story building to a 1-story building. So I have the original color board. You guys want to take a look at that? This is the original 2-story design, and it's got the C-bar approval on the back from 2015. And we actually, as I said, we have building and grading permits for it. So we're changing it to a 1-story building and we're moving it south about 5 feet. We've ran into some obstacles with the adjacent owner, Plenty on Bill. They're very concerned about our building being 2 stories over their patio. So the applicants reviewed the entire project and said, look, let's just do a 1-story. It was originally designed for a different owner. So with the current owner, Haven Properties, they're going to go forward with the 1-story design. And through a lot of discussion, we decided to kind of keep the design very similar, because we've actually had a rendering on the site for well over 5 years. And so the community's used to it. They seem to like it. So we've kept the design the same. It's about 5 feet shorter, actually. So we've got some kind of higher areas benches and mansards that hide all the equipment that we're gonna put on the roof. And that's mostly what we're doing. This is now going to be a dispensary for Haven. So that's what's happening on the inside. A single user building. The materials that we had processed through C-Bar many years ago was Corten siding. And then we have a portion of it that is also a stamped embossed metal panel that look like bricks. Like you've seen a lot of buildings in Los Olivos and Los Alamos, well, not Los Alamos, but Los Olivos. There's a couple buildings that actually have stamped tin facades. So we presented that to Los Alamos, or to the C-Bar, and they enjoyed that. So we're hoping that you would enjoy it as well. And that's really where we're at. We got a pedestrian walkway on the south side. The current owners there's two lots. They're currently not going to develop the second lot. They're just gonna leave it as is. So we're not proposing a second building, but a second building could be developed on the lot to the south. And that's what's kind of why we had the pedestrian access. That's about it. You guys open for any questions?
You said you moved it south? Which way is south? Southways towards.
So looking at that rendering to your right would be north, what we're calling north, and so of course I'm gonna have the middle probably sticky straight up, but let's say it's going to the right on Bell Street is what I'm calling north. So we moved the building to the south 5 feet. So if you guys have ever had a dining experience at Plenty's, Plenty on Bell, they got a patio there, and our building was 0 lot line originally, which is what the Los Alamos design standards promote. When the contractor went over there to start building the building, it didn't go well. So our client's very sensitive to the community.
So the plan, I thought I read that it was 5 feet from that property.
It's now 5 feet from the property line, yeah.
Is there
So
a
we
fence?
moved it, to the left on that rendering 5 feet. So we're now 5 feet from
Can you show
the property line.
And
Sorry?
site plan, maybe?
Yeah, you can go to site plan.
Yeah, there you go. Oops.
Yeah.
Is it this one?
No, it's.
Yeah.
Oh, just on
I
that.
think it is. Sure looks like the right drawing.
Yeah,
So we're currently, you see that, what's called lot 11? That's the patio for Plenty on Bell. And originally, our building would have been right on that property line. We've now moved it, 5 feet.
5 feet. And do you have a fence?
Yes.
Is it,
We're going to design a fence and that was gonna be worked out with
so you don't know what material is gonna be, you think?
yeah, we wanna do a wood fence, but we're still trying to work that out with them. So,
And it's gonna go across the back to the fence?
no, this goes across the adjoining property line. So the, property to the, on Waite Street is, at this point, has existing duplex on it. And there's, reciprocal access. So we're gonna use that, and we're not proposing any fences right now, because ultimately, that's all gonna get redesigned. The access ways.
How do you, what do you do with the trash once it's in the trash can? How do you get, where is the trash?
We're wheeling it to Waite Street. We have a trash enclosure, but we're gonna take the cans and we're gonna wheel them to Waite Street.
How does it get there? Isn't,
There's an easement, so if you look at that shade area on the bottom,
yeah,
you'll see, there's a trash enclosure,
yeah.
which is requested by county planning. And then in the dotted areas, I think there's actually an exhibit, might be the one before this or the one after, that shows the easement to Waite Street. There's a 20-foot access easement. So, of course, we don't pick up trash on Bell Street. So.
Excuse me, is that easement to Waite Street permanently deeded?
Yes,
So is that going to be the access that the employees will be using for the property, the building?
the employees, there's no on-site parking,
So no on-site.
no on-site parking, so they'll park wherever there's parking, and they'll probably walk.
So basically the access easement is only for the trash?
It's not even for trash, it's pedestrian or vehicle access, so PG&E has access. Right now, I think they're the only utility company that needs access, and it's pedestrian access. It can be used for vehicles, but there's no parking proposed on. And I don't know, you're probably familiar with the Los Alamos design guidelines. They don't want on-site parking.
Really?
Yeah. It's actually, for this project, there's no parking on site required. So,
Just to be clear, it's not, Los Alamos doesn't want on-site parking. It is not required.
it's not required. Do they want on-site parking? The planning standards discourage parking on-site. But just by their regulations, there's no parking, there's parking setbacks.
How is it being discouraged? I'm not sure what you're saying.
I can maybe speak to that.
Yeah. Okay.
So when the Los Alamos Community Plan was created, that was a specific provision included in it, and there were a lot of public workshops. As a part of that effort, but there is for commercial no required parking in the CMLA zone district.
And when was that when? Just to be on record.
Oh, it's one of the more recent. I would, if I had to guess on the spot, I would say 2009 or so. Look that up, but
That's quite a while ago.
I think you're right.
compared to the Arctic Community Plan, it's not.
It's one of those things, just on a personal level, I think needs to be revisited in a lot of these smaller towns where they have grown exponentially and parking is now probably.
Well, there's actually a parking setback, so you can't put parking in that first 25 feet. There's parking setbacks on Bell, Waite, and any of the side streets. You can't park in the first 20 or 25 feet, I forget what it is.
It was 2011,
Yeah,
for the record.
2011.
So Greg, real quick, this is a cannabis dispensary, correct?
Yes,
Where are the customers parking?
they're parking on Bell Street.
And then they're walking down to the front here?
Yes,
And so the product delivery will occur in the back?
no, it's actually all from Bell Street.
So how is security proposed to be handled for that?
How security, well, there's a security plan. So there is a conditional use permit as part of this process. Right now, we're here for the
Right.
architecture, but there's a conditional use permit that's being processed right now that has a security plan.
Do you have, the side elevations available?
Oh, yeah. I hope so. I always worry when a kid here, you'll have different plans. Have to keep going.
So,
Yeah, there you go. So that's that side there is a pedestrian alley, the upper drawing. So we have an entrance on the front, but we also have an exit slash entrance on the side. And you can see the bottom elevation is the front elevation. There's essentially, it's designed as two separate buildings. It appears like small shops. And the building on the left has the Core 10 siding, and on the right we have the pressed tin siding.
what about, do you have the other elevation facing the restaurant?
That's the upper side, the west is, yeah, you just passed it.
Oh, I did.
Yeah, the upper, that's the side facing Lethe.
A little bit barren, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, Greg, you said that this was already approved by CBAR,
Yeah,
and the modifications you made is a reduction in height, an overall reduction in height of 5 feet,
yes,
and you moved the building over away from the property line.
away from I'm sorry, away from Plenty.
The original owner, what was his intent and use?
It was a mixed-use building, we had apartments on the second floor, we had, apartments and offices on the second floor.
Okay.
And then, of course, there was no windows
Right.
facing Plenty, so. I mean, if you look at the guidelines for Los Alamos, they're encouraging zero lot line design, which means you're not gonna have them. So,
In the negotiations on the fence, are you negotiating with them 8 foot, 6 foot, 8 foot?
8 foot probably. But, yeah,
And the patio, the current dining patio is right to the property line.
Yes. In fact, there's a fence there, I think there's a fence.
There's, yeah, and there's
There's
small
cypresses.
fences.
And they were concerned about, we were talking to them, I don't wanna get into that too much, but we were talking to them about, building them a new fence and a new patio and that, none of that worked out. So we're basically just moved the building
Patio
away
has
from the
fence
property
and
line.
heavy landscaping along there.
There's landscaping.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, they got those cypress trees that are about,
there's a lot of Leilani cypress on there that you would not see that side of the building.
Oh,
Are they right along the fence line?
They are just inside Plenty's property.
So they're just gonna, that's be a backdrop to the trees. And that's working.
they're gonna have to start pulling them out pretty soon, cause they're getting so big. When
They
you
might.
they planted them kinda close together, but anyway.
And that's working that side.
I'd say it's core 10.
I have some comments on that side though. You've got that little shed roof thing in the front. It's just a triangle. What's
Yes.
really going on there?
What's going on there underneath it, you mean?
No, the side is a triangular shape. It's the end of the front shed. What's going on there? Is
We do have a rendering, but it's,
not the rendering, but if you zoom in on that area, there's either a shed roof going up, there's a fascia board or something, or something.
Just a little
And it's
bit.
also in the same plane as your corner,
right,
which you probably don't wanna do
there's a front rendering of that,
on that side.
yeah. So if we could go to page 1. I don't know, if you can't see it that well. All right. Yeah, it's just a gate, it's a side, shed style side.
It looks like it lines up with that corner. It
Yes,
looks like it's gonna be a difficult detailing thing to make everything copacetic.
yeah,
So look at how that works.
okay,
And then on the top, on the back, if we go back to that right side elevation, where the front facade part is, and then it starts up on the top part, there's some detailing issues up there that I think you need to look at. Cause it's
Okay.
just gonna go back,
Yeah,
And you might even wanna change the height of the roof slightly there, like you did in the front
yeah,
between the two elements.
yeah. Do you guys have the ability to run SketchUp here? We have a 3D, I just didn't bring it. There's a 3D model, you can see all that,
No.
how all of that resolves. So I can bring, well, I can bring, some 3D views of that. So you can see it better.
Or blown up detail out.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that could be resolved and is the facade turning the corner in the same plane as the, you know, as the curtain siding.
Yeah, there's gonna be an elevation change
Yeah.
when it turns.
Do you have the elevation, the south elevation?
The south of, so.
It's right below, I think.
Yeah. I think that's what you're talking about, yeah.
That's also court tenant.
Yes.
And you indicated that you've got a building permit.
We have a building permit for a two-story building.
And the only change to that is 5 feet.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, you've got the approved finished sample board, 2015, so you can see it looks the same every, it looks like it's a straight building. No, well, the windows are, you see clear story windows on the front, on the second floor, they're not functional. Functional
I
anymore.
think you omitted the trash enclosure that's there.
Yes. So we have a design for that.
It's up against the building.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So there's a whole sheet dedicated to that trash enclosure doors.
Jim, to clarify your comment, the potential detailing issues on the west elevation where the facade interacts with the west.
yeah, just to study and detail it. And also
So,
to show on the plans what you're planning on doing.
there's a whole sheet of details too, by the way. You guys wanna look at it?
They weren't in the packet, were they?
So this is, you say, one-story building, right?
Yes,
But it's 25 feet, 10 inches tall.
yes.
That's all for one story.
Yeah, we want enough height in the building for commercial use. We've got HVAC, lighting, structure,
That's 9
parapet details to cover the mechanical units on the roof. So, but the whole building isn't that high, I think it's just, that's just the front stuff. Yeah.
I think it's very handsome.
Greg, I have a question. Was back to the tree thing, did you guys move that building off of the property line to keep from, cause I don't know the site very well, to keep from having to cut the trees off that were overhanging the property line? Is that part of the reason? Because if you're putting a fence and you still have the big tall wall, I'm having a problem when a zero lot line was encouraged and you're moving it 5 feet and then you're making a 5-foot no man's land or a little skinny, difficult to maintain alleyway. In the greater scheme of things, well, really why? Was it just to save those trees or was it just to appease the property owner to the south?
Just be kind of blunt, it was to avoid a lawsuit. That's what the owner decided to do, and I think it was the right move. The buildings actually not only moved it, we made it 5 foot narrower, I guess I should say.
Oh, you
really move it.
You actually narrowed the
We
building
made
down.
the building narrower, yeah.
Okay, well, that wasn't understood, so.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I should have just said it that way. So the building is 45 feet now instead of 50 feet. So it's been, kind of condensed. And, again, I guess, I think there's an existing fence and an existing landscape there on planning site. So I don't know if we're gonna really replace it or it's just gonna stay the same.
But if they're cypress trees and they're Rolandi cypress, those things have arms on them that are upwards of 30 feet long if they're big.
Yeah, they're gonna eventually grow over the property, which might be a problem in the future, but I think the issue really was we offered, as the contractor offered to remove the patio, remove the trees, remove the fence. And then we build our building on the property line and we would, rebuild a brand new patio, redo new fence, new landscape, put the trees back in that I think, you might have consulted on that.
And,
had a 1 hour conversation
yeah,
with them about it.
Yeah, so we went to like extreme efforts to try to appease them. Didn't work, so we just made the building there.
Well, it also gives you the ability to wrap your details around the side nicer.
Yeah,
And you can also see down the material that's on the front's also on the side, that's nice.
yeah, so I'm gonna throw out that our idea is kind of like is kind of a, parody or a, statement on Western storefront. So you wrap this fancy detail around the whole building. They wouldn't have done that at the turn of century, which is what we're mimicking. So we stopped the facade simply at the front. We didn't turn it. We looked at turning the details, the cornice details, and decided not to do that.
We did turn it a bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. So it needs to wrap around and finish.
Right.
Most of the design for downtowns, old towns was zero lot lines. Each person had their specific frontage and they tried to maximize their frontage on the street. And so there wasn't these little alleyways and problem areas. It was store to store to store to store. And then they parked on the street, not in a big giant parking lot, which I can understand the discouragement of the parking because they need parking somewhere. It's not a big giant parking lot like when you pull up into Safeway or Albertsons or something like that. It's not a big giant parking lot in front. It's more about the small little commercial units. So that was why they don't have a problem with it, they just have a concern that they're moving the building off of the property and they're changing the status quo for some reason. And so,
I might be able to provide some helpful context for, this side property line, and the planner, Steve Connor, is also online. But I believe that when you provide a side setback, it's a maximum of 10 feet between the two buildings on adjacent lots. And so if they put 5 feet on this property line, that's probably why. But Steve might be able to shed some light on. I know he did review the patio area, but it's, increased setback from the zero lot line and also the setbacks on the side.
One thing, there's a practical, issue here when you build on a lot line. You have to really grade over the property line, or you have to put it short. So we're here in Los Alamos, which is, has seen a lot of development really, so we really need to grade onto into Lenny's patio realistically, or do shoring. And then when you're doing shoring, you're building a pretty big wall, and they're trying to have their nice, I don't know, blue cheese sandwich while we're, we've got guys hanging off the building, putting up signs. So the idea of doing zero lot line makes a lot of sense, but we're living in a different century, so property rights are pretty important to people, and so the impact of building on the property line, I think, is a little bit in conflict with these small lots. So that's why we did what we did. In another case, we might not do that. I've got other projects on this street that may go zero lot line. But I'm seeing a lot of them not, even though that's what the design standards encourage. So.
Now that space that you created, that's gonna be nothing.
Well, we actually use it for drainage, so it's actually helping us with our drainage. But I mean, functionally,
No, I mean, you're gonna fence it off on both sides.
no,
Land.
not right now. Yeah.
Can we see the front elevation again,
Sure.
please? Actually, the rendering, if you don't mind.
Is it one more Jeff or?
It's on page
I
one.
don't think the rendering is the same, is it?
Can you give us a sense of what the signage is going to be?
We don't have a signage package yet. There is, I made some suggestions. So, the signs will be a separate permit, I believe. That's correct, isn't it? So we can have a little bit of a hanging sign. So we're kind of suggesting. So if you, I don't think you can blow that up anymore. Or you can lose the resolution, but you can see there's some signage in the front. You'll- So you see the H for Haven. So we had this little alcove entry patio in the front. And you can see the sign just above that.
Right.
So they're not gonna have a lot of signage,
So
really.
it's not gonna be lit,
No, we don't need to.
okay? So the south facing side looks like it's a nice walkway.
Yes.
And yet when we looked at the side elevation, it looked like a blank wall.
Well, it's not a blank wall, it's a storefront. So. We can go to that. I mean,
Yes,
this,
please.
I'm not sure that, so we may have had more storefront in the past on the previous design. So,
Because what we saw a few minutes ago looked like pretty much a blank wall.
yeah, it's pretty blank. So we've got the opening there in the front where the patio is, and then there's the entry for this secondary entry slash exit is in the back.
Because in the rendering, it looks like there's a walkway all the way down.
There is, yeah.
A covered walkway.
It's not covered, but it's a pedestrian walkway. So the idea was when we did this design years ago, we were gonna do twin buildings. And then we still could do twin buildings. They got a second lot. And the pedestrian access, you know, one of the problems we had with these buildings and these lots on Los Alamos is they're 100 feet deep, I think, 50 by 100. So the back 20 feet you can't build on. That's another regulation that they have. So you need with an 80-foot deep building. So the idea is if we have a pedestrian access, then you can actually have entrances and exits in the back of the building. Otherwise, you just are going in this, 50-foot wide building, 80 feet deep with no windows or doors, right? That's what you would normally build. So in this case, we're able to do the entrance in the back by doing the 10-foot pedestrian.
So you're also anticipating that customers will park on Wade Street and walk in off of Wade?
No. I mean,
With a
purpose of the,
pedestrian.
again, it was it's to get an entrance in the back of the building, a storefront entrance. Yeah. Originally, the original design was we were gonna have maybe imagine a restaurant up front and a wine tasting in the back. So you would be able to do 2 spaces instead of 1. And now that we've got it as a dispensary, we don't need to break it up quite as much. So we probably have reduced the storefront on this little pedestrian walkway.
Thank you. This is the north side. So we're calling the north side.
This would be the south side.
South side. So the north side, even at 5 feet, you're what type M occupancy? The dispensary, the 2-hour wall.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Does staff have any additional comment?
Steve Connor, right? He's online.
Thanks.
Yeah, he was.
Okay, Steve, if you can hear us, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties with your audio. So we'll repair that and come back to you. At this time, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this project? If you can come up and introduce yourself.
Christian, I didn't hear what I was supposed to do.
Okay, that's the project.
Good morning, my name's Carol Bloom, and I live in Los Alamos. And we're welcoming new business to our town. It's very important for people who live there and places to work. Our biggest problem, besides this being next to our only family restaurant in town, is the parking. There are people who live on Wade Street, right almost adjacent to where there aren't gonna have any parking. And we're just wondering if there's something that can be done to add parking in some other area, because they won't be able to park very much in front, especially on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, which is our big tourist trade there. So our big concern is the parking. As residents, we can't even park in front when we come into town. So I'd like to hear how they plan on addressing that more forward. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay. Well, with regards to parking, that is a zoning issue. And a standard issue for that community in that zone district. So, with regards to the building, Craig, your agenda is for conceptual review at this time on previously approved Seaboard building. We understand the changes that you made to the building, the lessening of the storefront on this particular elevation, and the reason for it. The reduction in overall size and massing of the building. Does the board have any additional comments with regards to procedure? I mean, my thought is that this was reviewed and approved by another architectural board. Approval was granted in 2015. The materials haven't changed, only the height, location, and width of the building. And obviously the tenancy, which we don't have any control over. I'm looking for direction as far as moving this forward. So, do you believe, members of the board, it would be feasible to move from conceptual to prelim final? Yes, I do. I mean, you will want some clarifications on, some of the architectural details
Yes.
and finish endings.
Is there any landscaping proposed on the site?
Street trees.
That's it, nothing along that plaza.
But if they give us final drawings, I can look at that.
I mean, obviously you have final,
Is it okay to
please.
address that? So there's it's pavers, you know, individual paver, pedestrian walkway with planters. And then we've got some plants and planters. But not much.
And that was all part of your commercial layout.
Yeah, there's a landscape sheet, but it's not as nice as Kevin does. Just some
Was that
brown
previously
planters with some
approved
trees. Yes,
by C-Bar?
yeah.
Well, I do share the speaker's concern about parking. I recognize there's quite a limited things that, as a board, we have any input here, but I do agree that that is a problem. I think I'm okay with your proposal.
Just a comment. The wall between Plenty and this project, I think I'd like to see what that's gonna look like. Other than just that there's gonna be an 8-foot fence. I'd like to also have a clearer indication of what the signage is going to be. Even though it's a separate permit, it's still part and parcel of the architectural aspect of this building. And, again, I reiterate your comment, the elephant in the room is always going to be parking. And it is something that's eventually is going to have to get addressed. No parking is not encouraged within the community. It was part of the community plan. So there is a big difference there. Thank you.
And staff, we're gonna see that sign package, correct?
Yes, so it would be a separate BAR application. If they either have the option of including it in this package, but at the same time, there's a conditional use permit for the actual use in this building, and so that's probably why they haven't included signage yet. It's not an approved use. So any signage approved in the future will come before NBAR with a substantial or a signed certificate of conformity permit type and a new NBAR case.
Thank you.
So is it possible that, I guess it's the planning commission that's reviewing this currently for the use?
The structure is a land use permit, but the actual conditional use permit for the cannabis retail use, I believe, is going before the planning commission, though Steve Connor could, clarify.
Have we worked out those issues yet with Steve?
I got a quick question
Please.
for Greg. If you're going to the planning commission for specific use, is the owner's intent to build the building regardless of an accepted current proposed use, or a denial of that?
Yeah, I can't answer that. I don't think we're expecting it.
Don't we all?
Yes.
I'm asking the question only because I feel the desire to move the project forward, and that's, possibly premature, but a noble idea. So if the intent is to build the building, get the building built, and then hopefully the use is accepted, but if it's not, the building still goes forward, there may be other underlying circumstances that cause future changes, and, is it a futile exercise to move it forward if there's other problems?
Well, yeah, and the owner would have to address that. We're actually re-engineering this right now, so we're ready to submit for building permit as soon as we get a preliminary approval. Like you said, we were ready to break ground. And I think, last year. So the contractor was on site, ready to start clearing it and digging footings. So I think the owners are pretty committed.
Do you think that's a good point? Very fair point.
Has ownership changed? Yes,
Okay.
in the last 3 years. Yeah. The original proposal was would have been speculative, yeah.
My only other question is that the building elevation on the bottom looks level, but are you draining the lot from the back to the front? So is the entry in the back and the entry in the front on the same level? Or was one higher than the other? Or what?
Well, we have a parapet roof around most of it, and there's a mansard on that the pedestrian side. There's a mansard. It's all, sloped on top of, so that it's a tapered truss
No, I mean on the ground.
on the ground
Yeah,
for drainage.
yes.
We have a stormwater system in the back, and then the overflow. The way the elevations worked out, we're doing the overflow in that 5-foot area that we created. We're now doing the overflow path along there. I guess the grades worked out so the engineer could make that happen.
So you're not gonna have an issue with the base of the building and the ground. As it wraps around.
I don't think so.
When are you scheduled for the hearing for the condition, for the use?
I think they've been cleared. I'm not working on the land. I mean, I am working on it, but we have a planner that is, I thought was gonna grow. Unless great.
Steve Connor says it's not scheduled for the planning commission hearing yet. So they're still working through some incompleteness items, it sounds like.
Is that a condition of having conceptual EAR before the planning commission?
Oh, only if this is for all intents and purposes, for this discussion is a shell building regardless of the use. So it's tied directly to the land use permit on the agenda, whereas that cannabis retail use is a CUP processed separately.
I gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, and there is some time issues on the conditional use permit, I believe, because and I'm a little bit uneducated, but the process for dispensaries, there's a lottery. And so these these clients are pretty well established and they essentially won the lottery for Los Alamos. So the county is actually pushing for the use to be approved. If I can say that, I guess I can, so I just did, but, because they issued a dispensary lottery position and they want it to get used. This is one of the last ones I think that's yet to be issued. So,
So in your mind, this use is gonna move forward?
yeah, we'll build it as soon as we get building permits.
Now, when you say build it, and if the use doesn't get approved,
Well, I'm not the owner, so I can't answer that. I don't know what they'll do. So,
okay, so I guess as your agenda is for conceptual, work with planning staff as to how you're gonna come back. The timing of which you will come back,
yes,
with regards to how that will be, you know. My opinion is that you could probably come back for premium vinyl, pending that you have all your ducks in a row. And then you'll just have to work out with the owner whether or not it's gonna be built as a spec or it's gonna be built as purpose use, and that's outside of us.
yeah,
So,
of course.
alright. Well, any final comments on this?
Conceptually, it's a nice building.
I had one comment, just, at what point does that all-weather road for Wade Street go in and, that house get demoed? You said he has building permits, so has that already happened?
That's an adjacent property owner that we don't have any control over how they develop that property. We have a 20-foot easement through that property. So there is no all-weather road right now.
Okay.
So it is kind of up to the contractor to work that out with the adjacent property owners. They have an easement to do the work. They need to schedule it, and then, you know, I think, the primary thing that's pushing that is, PG&E access. But, we're working with PG&E on a location for the transformer on the adjacent vacant lot that these clients also own, so they're gonna probably have to upgrade that road to, if it's not already an all-weather road,
Yeah, and the reason I ask is, a board member, King, brought up the trash.
Yes,
And if you don't have access to Wayne Street where the trash cans are going, how do you get in there?
well, we do have access.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a four-way lot split. At the same time, this project was designed. So there is actually, that was recorded several years ago. The pedestrian access. Yeah,
Okay. All right, thank you.
okay.
All right, well, again, thank you for your time. We're gonna work with planning staff. And we'll see you again.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, moving on to agenda item number 2, the Cottonwood, number 2300128. If the applicant is available, please introduce yourself for the record and begin your presentation.
Brett Jones on Zoom, our agent.
Yes, yes, give me a minute, okay?
Good morning, everyone. Brett Jones here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. I believe the owner and the designers, the architects are in the room, and we're going to present from there.
Correct. Okay. Good morning. I'm Hank Warner, co-owner and developer of the project. I'm also co-founder of the hotel company Theodore that we're proposing here. This is my partner and co-owner, Sherry Simmons. We're excited to introduce the Cottonwood, a lifestyle project for locals and visitors. Our goal is to meet the growing demand of comfort, accommodations, and culinary experiences in the Santa Ynez Valley. We selected architects GMHA for their track record and outstanding design abilities. And
Thank you, Hank. Chair and fellow board members, at
Vicente, architect, DMHA, and my design partner, Ryan Mills. We'll take you through the site and post-project. We're here for conceptual to get feedback from you all before we prepare our formal application today. So that's where we're at in the process. We're excited to move ahead, but we felt this is important enough of a project to get a read from the board before we move ahead much further. So let's move to the next page. Next. And just a little context here. So on the right-hand side, and we'll get to a survey as well, I'll orient this. The project fronts Bell Street, and it's a full through lot, and so it actually is, the rear portion is on Leslie Street as well. Currently, it's a vacant parcel. There's sidewalk and gutter improvements in front. There's a 20-foot right-of-way, which is a Caltrans right-of-way. Property line is back near the fence. And here's just along the street, you can see from each corner a couple of the street trees that we have. Along Leslie, there's less improvements in the public right-of-way. And as you can see here, it's pretty vacant. So on the right-hand side, so this is to the west of us, which we'll see in the site plan, is the Alamo Motel. And on the right-hand side, to the east from Bell Street are two vacant parcels. Next. Let's get past this, we'll come back to this. And so here's the site. So again, better oriented, Bell Street on the bottom, Leslie Street on top, or through parcel, the Alamo Motel, our adjacent neighbors here. Couple of vacant parcels here, residential on towards the east, and then the post office sits here on the corner. Just a little more orientation. North down. Excuse me?
Is north down?
North is up. Yes. Page up. So we have a great south frontage, which you'll see plays a lot into our architecture. And so here's our property line, as I wanted to mention. Back sidewalks here. We have a 20-foot, there is some dedication over time to give that to the street, and we'll talk about that and what we're proposing in that area. So there will be coordination with Caltrans as we move ahead as well, and County Public Works. Oh, I should also state a couple of other things. Topographically, it's fairly flat through here. We're about 2 to 3 feet across the property, sloping from the bottom right-hand corner to the northwest corner. As you can see, we've got, this is the floodway, the flood zone cuts through a portion of the property, and this is a floodway, a little more restrictive area in blue here. So these are all things that we've taken into consideration with our layout, and we're just now beginning our conversations with our civil and landscape designers. So we'll have more information for you the next time you see us on that. Okay, let's move to the proposed plan. There we go. All right, so again, just orienting us Bell Street on page down, which is also south. And per the guidelines, so when we took a look at the layout and the guidelines, as you heard in the last presentation, it's very central to how we approach the buildings. So we have a lot line to lot line structure, east to west. And then we're a through lot, so what it encourages is an 80-foot max build out on the front portion, and I think it's a 60-foot max build out in the rear portion with the 5 to 15-foot setback. So we're pretty much on the property line along Bell Street, as encouraged by the guidelines, and we do at our lower level, we're about 75-foot build up. The upper levels are at the 80-foot build out. On the back portion, we're about 45 feet of the 60-foot line, and we've got those lines drawn in as reference for you all. The other thing that it encourages, the guidelines encourage, is parking access from the rear streets. And so we've done that on the side, on the heavier, more restrictive flood side, and put the parking behind the front building as encouraged by the guidelines. So this is how the pieces and parts of the project really took shape and responded to the guidelines. The other components, we have exiting systems for each of the north and south buildings. So here for the north building, the stairwells and elevators that go all the way up. We're a 3-story building. We'll take you to the other plans. As far as uses, the south building is really the energetic use, looking off of Bell Street. So the hotel rooms are served from the hotel lobby on the left third of the building. And we have some hotel reception, some retail, and meeting rooms and office Actually, why don't we go to the next page from the site plan, we get a little more. Here we go. Thank you, staff. So, entrance off Bell, we have some retail, and then the hotel lobby with elevators to the upper levels for the guests. And then the central portion is really the entrance to the courtyard of the hall. So here we have some wine tasting, microbrewery, seating areas, and food vendor locations. We've got a number of those for this public serving. It's not, this is for the community, not really the hotel guests. Although, of course, they'll be able to engage here as well as the rest of the community. And then we have a small scale restaurant on the third entrance here as well. So that's kind of how we're using the front, the south building. The parking as we have, as I mentioned, we have 28 spaces, one for each guest room, which is per the guidelines. And as we kind of talked about, as you heard in the last presentation, there's certain uses require parking and others don't in the guidelines. So the guest rooms do, but the commercial area itself, per the guidelines, do not require any additional parking. North building is just our placeholder right now, but it's really the back of house to serve you. All the utilities come in off of Leslie Street. We've got a place for a admin and transformer, which will need all the other utilities, water, sewer, gas. They'll serve from the north side. We've also got trash areas identified, a loading, unloading zone for trucks, for shipments, and the rest of it will kind of fill out as support areas really for the restaurant uses, back of house for the hotel, and different things with that. I think another important thing on frontage, I think I mentioned the rear setback 5 to 10 feet. Looking at the guidelines to the frontage type, we'll look into the design, and you'll see in some of our elevations is probably a stoop style here. So we're gonna develop that a little bit. And then on the front, it's encouraged to have a gallery. So we've got about a 12-foot colonnade along the front that pushes into that right-of-way. Again, it's a little deeper here than other parts of Bell Street. The sidewalk is all the way at 20 feet, and so we'll have some opportunities for landscape and hardscape connection in addition to the colonnade and gallery that we're proposing. Okay, let's move to the upper floors. Next page. Thank you. So it's pretty much a stack. So we've got 14 guest rooms. Many of them are suite type. This is Viador, the type of product they like is really for groups or friends and families to stay together. And some smaller rooms as well, but primarily they're suites. And so we'll have more full build outs when we come in further presentations. And so we've got a number of buildings, our guest rooms in the back, and then a number in the back and the front. And in between, we have a great pool deck and court that we are proposing. So this will bridge over the parking, and we'll have some private spaces and some public spaces. So we're just getting started in our design of this area. This is just the place to live for now, and it'll develop much more dynamically. And the pool will only be for guests. It will not be for the broader community. It'll be probably just for the guests of the hotel. So the elevator will be locked off and only be for hotel guests. Key card control. We've got some balconies proposed at different areas. We're kind of studying where they go as the room layouts get developed. Balcony, as you see in detail on our plans, encroachments into the right-of-way for balconies, things are allowed and encouraged in the guidelines. And so I think we can go up to 6 feet. We're not that much because of our setback. We're like a foot or two for some of these. But again, we'll develop those as the project design goes a little further. Here you can start to see kind of how we're handling our east and west property lines. As you heard in the last presentation, we're zero lot line except leaving a few inches to build things and for seismic movement later. And to make some of those parapet transitions. But for the most part, it really is a zero lot line. So for some of these guest rooms, we did carve out some pockets so we can get some windows into these. Some of these other rooms are just smaller, they have better north-south orientation, so we can get plenty of good openings in there. That's pretty much how we're handling the east and west edges. Again, the parking edges will be open and we'll have some fences there to manage that, just minimally. Next page, on the third story, is really, as I mentioned, is a stack. It's just a repeat of the guest rooms below. They really just duplicate in the circulation systems, push all the way up. And again, we're studying where balconies would make sense private balconies so folks can, have a cup of coffee or read something during the day outside of their guest room, have some private space outdoors as well. Next page. Okay, so let's actually back up to the historic references page. I think it's like third or fourth page. And I'll pass it to my partner Ryan to take you through the design aesthetic. How does it kind of look and feel, and how we respond to the guidelines in that sense? Thank you, Mr. Chair, and fellow board members. So our starting point was obviously understanding the region overall of the valley, and then more specifically kind of taking a survey of Los Alamos. And then digging into the guidelines, so just understanding what the guidelines was looking to achieve, creating zero lot line, a downtown gallery experience, and period appropriate, mid 1800s and onward. So the first thing we wanted to do is just understand what truly was period appropriate and authentic and does exist still to this day. So we kind of gathered a collection of images, and we had many more than this, and slowly kind of sifted through and reduced down to what we thought was most specific and relatable to what we're proposing, and which would fit in the context of Los Alamos of that time period. So the collection here is a range of, we might need to zoom in to see some of these. Can you zoom into the top left? We'll kind of slowly move through. So Old Town Sacramento was a good example. I mean, there's lots of examples. Some bleed into Nevada, Colorado. There's many areas in the West, but we kind of wanted to get as close to home as we thought we could. Of a relatively small town that of that era would boom and start building some of these slightly larger buildings. So the Union Hotel in Old Town Sacramento we thought was a really good example of that era and scale. So this is sort of how our program is stacking up in terms of height and size. So what you do see is what's very common of that era is that gallery, which is very specific to the Los Alamos guidelines. So that was sort of the key feature of the building we're
Additionally, the other main part of our design is, again, part of the guidelines is splitting up the length of the building into separate and distinct facades, so, which is common. So it really just reduces the scale and creates a little more authenticity to the town. So each one would have been built at slightly different times and slightly different styles. So, and then scale. So a couple things we looked at, I mean, this is very similar to what we're proposing with the first floor gallery of a greater height that accommodates commercial use. Again, with mechanical and higher ceilings, it's just a bigger volume space for the public. And then 2 rows of guest rooms above, which Ed took us through in the plans. What I'd like to point out, which we also have, is we have a second floor balcony for these rooms on our second level. And then we studied in some options, like here on the left, it's not uncommon to have a whole covered second floor balcony, but we opted to reduce the scale of that along Bell and let it step back. So things we're looking at is architectural detail. So what do you see often in these? Particularly here, there's brick building was common, but there was stucco, so there's a range of material of this era, and then of course wood cladding. So those were the 3 we honed in on and looked at. Let's scoot to the right. It's another old image of the Union Hotel, which we thought really spoke to what we were trying to achieve. A little bigger in scale than what we're doing, but again, materiality in terms of plaster, stucco, potentially some brick detail, and again, you see that gallery space along there, and the idea of multiple facades breaking up the block. Keep scrolling to the right. Orleans Hotel and down Old Town Sacramento. The other thing you'll start noticing, or we did as we moved through all these, was the fenestration, so the patterning. It was very rhythmic, very consistent. Many have, completely uniform fenestration, but you'll see a few examples where they start to create a rhythm. There might be
2 or 3 and then a double, and 2 or 3 and a double, which we'll show you in a second. So keep scrolling down the aisle. The Western Hotel in Colorado, so a bit farther from home, but we thought this was actually a familiar language regionally, kind of wood cladding. It's what you might see more in San Ynez and Los Olivos. So, but again, similar massing. This is very similar to the scale of what we're proposing. And again, here's an example of fenestration kind of creating a slightly different rhythm, which we picked up on a couple of our facades. So let's pan to the right. Nevada City has a lot of great examples as well. And again, this is about the width of our parcel we're looking at. So as you do see here, they do break up the facades into a couple different types, but what you'll see in ours is we took that a little farther to make more distinct changes as you move. Let's keep going. Again, very similar example, so maybe just keep scrolling, we can just kind of move through the rest. So this building here, in Nevada City here, was an example of a couple things, actually, these two on the right. So rhythm of windows weren't quite as consistent, but more importantly, common of this area also are the decorative pediments at the top of these buildings fronting Main Street. And you see it, here's a couple more examples. Red Dog Saloon in Virginia City. And really, we thought Virginia City, this is a really good example of what the Los Alamos Guidelines is promoting. So, we might be the first of a few projects like this, but per the guidelines, this is really the vision. If this is the catalyst, this is what that would yield over time, over decades. Let's keep going left. And just more examples of that. So I think we can kind of move on from there. We can always go back to that as a reference. So that was our starting point. So we want to, let's go down to the elevation sheet.
One other thing I'd like to point out on, kind of the building massing, so we dug into the guidelines and this parcel was actually, kind of pointed out actually as a graphic within the guidelines, so if you dig into that, actually shows a 3D massing of what would be appropriate. So quite literally, we followed that, not because it was shown that way, but it made the most sense. One thing we liked about this massing is obviously the frontage on Bell, and then the back house portion on Leslie keeps the project quieter, and you see both the parking is hidden in the middle, and also the pool and more public amenities is basically circled in the middle, so it's kind of shielded. Any noise and activity really won't spill out to either street. Let's go to the front elevation first. Okay, so this is the Bell elevation. So big idea, as you can see, we broke it into thirds, basically. And there's a balancing act here. Well, we wanted it to feel like distinct buildings, different facades. We did also want it to read and feel and represent one big building or development. So, branded the Cottonwood, we wanted some cohesiveness. So the balancing act for us was one primary facade in the middle with the finishes and architectural detailing feeling a little more formal, a little more important. It would almost be like this would have been like the bank facade built at that era. And then the two on the side, the language a little more casual and simple. So wood clad facades, whitewashed, and then primarily wood detailing. So can we zoom in a little bit? Maybe on the middle portion first. And some of the specifics of those are, for this, we're proposing stucco, and this is very early. We're coming very early with these ideas. There's lots of room to finesse detailing and materials, but what we believe is appropriate is the center one a little more formal with stucco finishes. Guideline has some language for that. We think it should be rich in texture and color. Decorative parapet element here to for signage opportunity for the whole building here. Again, third floor, there's no balconies, or it's pretty straightforward, but some more decorative detailing, period appropriate detailing here. This center facade is really flanked by two pilasters that are meant to be just proud of the rest of the facade. And then this is that second level where it sits on top of that gallery. And so this will be usable outdoor space for this suite. And this represents one suite. So 1, 2, 3. So there's actually fewer unique guest rooms in this building. And then of course, as you go down, so gallery space, it's very generous. Do you know the height of that in the gallery? I can't recall. About 14 feet. So proportionally, we like what's happening. So giving that first floor level a more generous height, it reduces the apparent height of the second and third floor, which you'll see in perspective in a minute. So that's the center building with a few callouts. As you dig in, you'll see every decision we made and how we studied was relative to the Los Alamos guidelines. So we referred to that in some of the detailing. So that's how we kind of framed our design and decision making. Then let's zoom, pan over here to that left facade, and they're essentially left and right are identical, but so similarly the gallery continues, and since one of the members asked in the previous project before us, signage. So we have building signage proposed in the middle facade, and then what you'll see is fairly straightforward hanging wood signage within at the edge of that gallery, right? So there's one for the hotel entry here, one for the gourmet food hall, and then one for the bistro cafe restaurant on the third. So that's the big idea for signage on the building. So generous height doorways on the ground floor to be inviting, and that was part of the guidelines as well, as really being public oriented for this first floor. So that's how we approach that whole level. And then as we move up, again, slightly simpler architecture, period appropriate cornices, but otherwise painted wood siding. And here, because we're south-facing, all these kind of French door systems, we do fabric colored awnings just to be a little more casual and add a little color to the facade. Okay, let's go to the rear facade, and we have it prepared. We've started modeling all of this. That's how we work, so everything's accurate and we draw over. We don't have the side elevations to present you today, but we're working on that in terms of they are zero lot line. And so we will have some ability. One of the questions that come up, do we turn the corners with some of these cornices? So if we look at the historic precedent, often they did not, but we do have the ability if we feel collectively that that would be important. So we've left ourselves space to do that. So the Leslie elevation is really the back elevation of the building, so we're reflecting the same mood, right? So here's that center stucco facade, a little simpler. We don't have any balconies here proposed popping out. Down below is part of the service yard that we screen. We're showing a wood fence at this point along the right of way. So the transformer and other utilities can be hidden from view. Then, of course, it's just a quieter elevation. So we have the bottom floor is really back of house, meant to be quiet. Opportunities for street trees and landscaping, just as a buffer. Let's scoot to the right here. So other than that, this back right corner would be the parking lot entry and loading for the project. So again, we pushed it to the corner where we have the flood concerns. So it was the right place to put it, and just try to keep it as simple and quiet as possible. And then, so everything above this, again, the guest rooms above are pretty straightforward. Here's that rhythm of openings, the 2, 3, 2. And everything stacks. It's pretty efficient, as was appropriate for the period. And then on the two side facades, we did introduce balconies, sort of a double wood detailed balcony for those two suites. And then let's lastly go to the next page. I think think this is an important view. This is a vantage point from across Bell Street, just to see what it really looks and feels like. So, again, the three facades. What we like from this view is, again, because the first floor is so generous, you can kind of see it. It really minimizes that second floor, so it almost reads like a two-story building. Not that it needs to, but we just liked that the apparent mass was a little softer than a true three-story building. We're alluding to it here, but you can see Ed spoke about the setback. So from Bell, the building facade is 20 feet back, and then the gallery that we're building will be in that setback, essentially, the Caltrans easement. So there's that 10 to 12 foot gallery boardwalk. Then we have some amount of planting, then the sidewalk, and then Bell Street. So this is we didn't develop this quite yet, but we have room to expand that kind of guest and public experience in front of the building. But we like that it actually, because of the scale, allows this building to set back a little farther than the rest of the buildings that could come on Bell Street. Let's see, and do you want to add anything?
Thank you, Ron. Just a couple more points, Chair and board members. If you can go back one page. And to the right-hand side. So a couple things. The landscape ideas are loose, as we mentioned. We're just getting started, and then we'll definitely have street trees along Bell. We left them off so you could see the facade really well. But height is going to be one of our challenges. With the 3 stories, we're right at the height limit. This is going to be going up and down depending on the flood. We just got the survey information. We're working with Public Works and the flood determination of where the finished floor needs to be. It's possible we might need a height variance because the flood requirements may push the building up a couple of feet. So right now, our plate height for the commercial is 14 feet, floor to floor. Then we're 10 foot floor to floor, 10 foot floor to floor. Really, so we're just under 9 foot ceilings, 8 and change in the guest rooms. They're not as tall as we would like because of just the commercial space needs a lot of room. We got a lot of mechanical for
food service. So I want to give you some of that technical and also get a read from the board. And what are you thinking about the height of the building? Because right now, as you see, it follows the existing in some portions, the parapets are pushing above that. We will have equipment as well that will need to be screened and above that as well. So it's just finding the right balance to get 3 stories in here with our pressure from below to raise the building up to flood. So those are a couple points I wanted to add for your consideration. And again, these are important things to hear back from you very early on in the process because it helps us shape the project as we move ahead. I think we hit the key points for here, definitely for questions any you may have. And yeah, we're excited to share this with you and hear what your thoughts are.
Thank you very much. The staff, would staff like to make any comment at this time?
There isn't, oh, sure thing. So there isn't an assigned planner yet. There's no case submitted, just the BAR case. I do have just one comment, for anything that would require an encroachment permit that's coming into the right of way. I know that the Los Alamos community plan encourages encroachment. However, we've encountered issues with public works permitting staff in the past. So we would recommend that, you talk to them very early, about that. And make sure that they might actually grant those encroachment permits.
I was gonna ask, yeah, thank you. All right, let's open it up to the board. Members? Any comment?
You can come back up. You showed a lot of examples of windows and old buildings and stuff, but your windows go right up to the corners, and there's not enough room above it. It's awkward. Also, the building has mirrored sides, and so the whole thing reads as one big building rather than the 3 pieces that you want. Here, 14, 10, and 10, so you're kind of maxed out. I don't know how you can make it any taller. I like the walkway in the front, but talk to me about the windows in the top. I mean, that, and also in the center too. It's a stucco building, so it's kind of wide that it's masonry, which needs more headroom above the windows too.
We did the front elevation. So you saw our challenge kind of with the height. So, you know, one question might be, so I agree, in a perfect world, we'd have, you know, another foot above the header trim to get to the cornice and get to.
It's a story going from one to the other. I mean, a verbal story. But
Yeah,
since it doesn't work very well, is it the appropriate approach?
well, we have a little wiggle room. Again, these are fast sketches, right? This is why we're here, to get good feedback. So right now, we're showing we have about 8-foot headers here. We have a little wiggle room to, I mean, we'd like to be there in height. We have about 3-foot sills now. We could look at, you know, some of that detailing. We know the fenestration wants to be tall and narrow, proportional, right, of that era. Those buildings did, they simply had more height. And all those examples we show were much taller than these buildings. They're 2, 3, 4, 5 feet taller than these buildings. So with these constraints, we're looking at, are there ways, and we can dig into some more examples of when the cornice does come down to the header trim of the window. We can pull some of those up.
But none of them that you showed me did. And it just looks awkward. And I don't know whether you make the window shorter or whatever. The awnings on the bottom also look like they're too low. But those are just details you work on, and the railing doesn't look tall enough for modern. And maybe it is. Looks 6 inches a foot too short. But, and it's all the same height all the way across, but I understand you can't vary the height because you're at the top of the thing. So,
Yeah, we do have the ability, you know, often there's, for architectural features, you can exceed height limits in nearly all jurisdictions. And that's part of a question we have for this board. So often that's acceptable. Now, when it becomes a whole length of a cornice or parapet, that may be pushing the limits. Would love some feedback on that. But so yes, we would love the ability to kind of alter the heights and create greater difference between the two facades, but just being at these limits, and again, it's really challenging. So we we talked about the height, the finished floor. So we're assuming, on this level, nearly 2 feet of structure. And then floor to floor, about a foot of structure or more. So, this is really all minimal heights here, and what we feel is like the appropriate height on the
The
ground.
bottom looks correct
Yeah.
in terms of height.
Mhm.
But the relationship between the top of the building on top of the windows is off.
Mhm.
Also, I'm wondering why you did mirrored elevations on either side of the centerpiece. Because it reads as one building
Right.
with a middle part that's different rather than through separate pieces.
So that was part of the study. So we are looking for a balance. There's sort of two thoughts that we're trying to tie together. We understand per the guidelines and historically, they would be separate, narrower buildings. So that's how we broke this up. Now, there is a desire to pull it all together as one, one place, kind of as a block. So in this instance, yes, these are two, but if the board feels strongly like that's some direction that would be appropriate, we're happy to study the two side facades being different in language. So,
We'll look at it, and the other thing, just conceptually, is this is all south facing. You've handled the sun on the bottom and the sun on some of the second floor, but about half the windows are unprotected. What you thought about that?
requires further study. Again, this is our very early first pass, so, would love more time to work through detailing. So yes, shading is
The awnings look a little, placed a little low above the windows, but those are details that we're gonna look at. And the sun control needs to be thought about.
Or back to, oh, I know.
You think or you know? Okay. Continue.
Sorry about that.
Can we go to the last page? As we're talking about this. So, we're on, good. So here, as we drew this in perspective, we're starting to think about that, right? So the decorative cornice could be proud towards the street, obviously, and then it's either like here we're implying it could be cleanly sliced, but you have the space to at least trim it along this. And then again, we're showing wood siding or stucco or some combination of the two. Yes, traditionally you wouldn't do anything there, but we feel because we don't know when the next buildings would show, we should
If
add
this is
something
siding,
to.
there should be siding, because it's
Yeah.
supposed to be the same thing.
Mhm.
But even in this drawing, it even bothers me more about the windows jamming up against the corners. It doesn't, there needs to be something between them. Or, work it out. Also, once I realized how your rooms work, you could put the windows pretty much anywhere. They're like big, huge, long rooms, right? Yeah, so there's a lot of freedom.
The comment on putting something between, were you saying between the windows?
The distance between the top of the windows and the corners is an issue. And in the middle too, a little bit.
I'm gonna take a dive in here.
Yeah.
First of all, I think the presentation and the direction that you're going, is really pretty terrific. I actually live in Los Alamos, and one of the things that has been an issue has been the sameness of a lot of the new projects. That they all look sort of like pre-made. I think you've avoided that pretty well. It's very thoughtful, and I appreciate that. I do think what you had commented on about the south facing, if you frequent any of the buildings on the opposite side of the street, you would know that whatever is built there is going to reflect into all of those buildings. For instance, going back to Plenty, the building right across the street, if you're sitting in there, nobody ever wants to face the street because the glare is in your face. So that would be something that reflected nature of this and all of those businesses right across the street. I think my main concern here is that given the prominence of this site, which I assume is one of the reasons why the owner bought it, is probably the last remaining key lot in town. Very prominent. And my main concern is that this is so enormous at 3 stories, which we have no precedent for in Los Alamos at this point. That this is going to loom over the entire town and be so profoundly monumental that I am very concerned about that. Also concerned, you mentioned before about the activity in the front or in the back. And I mean, I'm looking at this and I can see socializing, commercial socializing down below, which I kind of like. Above, I know what hotels are like that have balconies and have guests who have in-room parties and such. Particularly the kind of clientele that you're likely to have here coming for weddings and such. That some control over what happens on that balcony on the second floor, with what happened there. And I do agree also that there's some protection that needs to be over those windows. Again, because of the extreme nature of that south face. The back side, it all goes to the same issue of just this huge mass all of a sudden right in the middle of town. And I don't know how that gets addressed. And also on this side, because you're right next to the Alamo Motel, what is going to happen on this side, which will affect them, Because a certain amount of light will be eliminated from them, which can't be helped. But something needs to happen on that side architecturally to make it more appealing. On the other side, we don't know what's gonna happen over there yet.
Which is that the
Just the west.
west elevation?
Yeah, this side is the west. Which we thought about would the good news about that orientation is, the sun's rising here and swinging around their parcel, so
Right.
we felt good about
Yes.
the
Because
solar.
they're not going anywhere.
Yeah,
That's it for now.
I would, also like to compliment you on your presentation. I personally get a little tired of this computer and generating online stuff. This has a nice subtle feel to it. And I appreciate where you source your form vocabulary, vernacular. And I have to disagree with my colleagues a little bit here. I kind of think that the awnings on the second floor there are appropriate. And I wouldn't want to see awnings on the third floor. I think that would be start to look more helter-skelter. But I do think that we do need to, or you do need to look at how that cornice does detail. Looks like you have enough room up there to maybe be less horizontal and perhaps detail the top of those window heads with something that would fit underneath the cornice.
Can I pause you right there? So study cornice detail.
Well, the window heads on the third floor, the head detail, I should say, on the third floor, and how that relates to the cornice. It looks like there might be enough space. It's gonna be really difficult because of your height limitation.